On an island in the Canadian Arctic, research scientist David is recording himself while reading about sacrifice and the need for science. He notices a clip of a woman crying about an injury on her forehead, which causes a parasite to come out but goes back in before he can catch it. The clip then shows the current state of the world. Global warming has become a dangerous threat, eco-terrorism is a daily occurrence, and a pandemic is slowly spreading around the world. Some people call nature the real terrorist and believe that the Bible warned humanity about this a long time ago. David and his team are watching a polar bear, which they try to sedate with a tranquilizer gun, only to make the bear furious instead. They discover the bear had been eating the carcass of an ancient mammoth, which appeared after most of the ice melted. David calls his daughter Evelyn to come see his discovery, but she refuses due to David not attending her mother's funeral. David eventually offers her all the money left by her mother instead of monthly payments. David learns that the bear has mysteriously died and goes to check it out. Meanwhile, 3 students are chosen to join David's research at an important college: Ling, Federico, and Adam. Pilot Bart gets a call from David, who asks him not to bring his daughter to the research center and promises to send her the paperwork through him. As the team gets closer to the Arctic, they find that there is very little ice left. They make it to the research center, where nobody is around, and the power isn't working. A gunshot is heard in the distance, and Adam and Evelyn enter a particularly strange room, startled by the bear's rotting body in the lab. Bart joins them, wanting a picture with the bear, but gets bitten by a bug. In the campsite, David starts recording his video while a teammate buries their dead friend. Jane hears the radio and is horrified to hear Evelyn's voice confirming she's come with the students. Jane warns David, who tells Evelyn that nobody should leave the building and promises to be there soon. After hanging up, Jane asks David what happened, but David swears everything is okay. Evelyn and Adam are trapped in a bug-infested room, but their enjoyment is interrupted by a bug. Federico, having a phobia, jumps away from Ling and goes to sleep with the others. Before dawn, Evelyn wakes up to find a vehicle approaching the building and an unconscious Jane inside. They call for help, but Jane destroys the helicopter's control panel. Bart retrieves his weapon just in case. Ling yells at the group that Jane is getting worse, and she starts choking on the goo and dies. The group agrees to seal up the room, and Evelyn decides to go looking for her dad. Meanwhile, Bart tries to fix the helicopter, but the bug bite wound gets bigger and nastier. Later, they find a mammoth with eggs in its body, and they find David's dead teammate behind the tent. They also find a grave nearby, and Evelyn assumes her dad is dead and buried. In the research station, Federico feels pain and feels a lot of pain as his pee comes out with blood. He checks on Ling, who can't stop shaking and suddenly throws up. Federico uses the radio to try to contact someone for help. The others come back and share the bad news. Evelyn enters the sealed room and checks Jane's stomach, finding nasty wounds all over her stomach. She suspects the bugs are parasites and that there must be a bunch of them inside Jane. They decide to move her to the lab, which is a separate structure. The group wraps Jane up with bed sheets and leaves her inside, where Evelyn takes a closer look at the bear, which has a wound full of eggs. Federico announces a helicopter will arrive to rescue them, but Evelyn thinks they should call them again and tell them not to come because they won't be prepared. Instead, they should contact disease control and let them decide what to do. The guys freak out and immediately disagree, so Evelyn runs out of the lab and locks herself up in the radio room. Federico bursts in and kills the group. In this text, the group is tasked with finding a bear that has been infected with parasites. They find a sick bear named Ling who throws up on the floor and is found to have wounds with eggs in them. The group then checks on Jane's body, which is shocked to see the bugs coming out of her. Bart, worried about his own injury, decides to chop his arm off to remove the eggs. However, he is attacked by a bug escaping into his arm, indicating he is already deeply infected. Evelyn and Adam agree to help him, while Federico checks his groin and finds it bleeding. Adam injects Bart with a sedative dart, and Evelyn ties fabric as a tourniquet. Evelyn discovers a first aid kit on the ATV and brings it in, revealing David's notebook with bug drawings. They learn that eggs are the only threat and that getting bitten by a male may not equal infection. They also find tapes and volunteers to retrieve a camera for the lab to watch them, hoping they may have information that could save Ling. Evelyn enters the lab, where she notices the bear's wound has gotten bigger and nastier. She approaches Jane's body and finds only the skeleton left. As the bugs start coming out of the bear, Evelyn runs to the door to check her infected. Federico forces her to undress, but Atom kills a parasite trying to get into her wound just in time. As they prepare to watch the tapes, a parasite follows them into the other room, but they quickly kill it. The lab is filled with thousands of parasites covering the bare walls and floor. Ling is left with a skeleton, and the group is left to continue their search for the missing parasites. Evelyn, Atom, and Federico are infected with parasites that are attacking their girlfriend Ling. They find Ling still alive with the parasites, using a new wound to enter the building. Bart punches Federico and volunteers to go in, while Evelyn, Atom, and Federico wait for the parasites to take him. Evelyn and Atom return to their father, David, who tells them to find gasoline to burn the building down. As they spread the gasoline inside the building, the parasites sneak around other rooms. Evelyn learns that her father had told her not to come but allowed the students to come anyway. David finds Evelyn and Atom watching the tapes and asks them to return them. Evelyn begs him not to do this, but David takes the tapes and leaves the island. A helicopter lands nearby, and Evelyn and Atom break a window to escape. Atom manages to hold onto the helicopter, telling the pilot that David is infected, but David says Atom is the infected one. At the helicopter crash, Evelyn shoots Federico's weapon, causing it to crash into the building. The building explodes, killing all the parasites. Evelyn retrieves the notebook and hides in Bart's helicopter. 2 more chops arrive the next day, saving Evelyn before she could freeze to death. Later, Evelyn goes viral with her story and is considered a hero. In the countryside, a hunter calls back his dog, who had been feeding on a dead bird. It's revealed that the bird also has eggs, and now the dog is going home with his owner in the big city.